Gabriel Lemaine here at Comic-Con with the writer David Mack. He's written some episodes of Star Trek as well as several other books.
Howdy.
So, what are the things that you made?
I'm sorry?
What are the things that you've written?
I've written about 20 novels, most of them Star Trek, but I've also written for Wolverine, the 4400. I've written an original novel titled The Calling, about a man who hears when other people pray for help. I wrote for the Star Trek Deep Space Nine TV series in the 90s. I've written for comic books. I've written for video games. I've also been a news reporter, a journalist, internet columnist, all kinds of things. I've been a short filmmaker, you name it.
Okay, given that you've written, like, I guess, a very wide breadth of material, I guess, which of the medium do you like writing for? Is much more easy for you, I say. I mean, I know that video games, as opposed to writing for television and film, require different types of pacing, whatever. Like, so, which ones do you think are more, I guess, more flexible for you?
Well, the skill set that one uses is very different, obviously, from medium to medium. I find that I didn't really do much in-depth work in video games. I was mostly just writing dialogue scripts. As far as the difference between writing for prose, such as novels and short stories, versus, let's say, scripts for comic books, film, and television. Comic books, film, and television have a very stripped-down format for script. You're really just getting the essential details of story, image, and in the case of writing for film and TV, sound, and then dialogue. Whereas when you're writing a novel, you have to be attuned to all five senses. You need to try and capture a full sensory experience, and you need to integrate it with story and with character and dialogue in a seamless kind of flow of prose. So prose is a more challenging form in its way because it requires more detail, attention to more senses, and it has to be more seamlessly integrated, all the various parts together. However, screenwriting is also very challenging in that you have to accomplish a lot, but you have to use very few words to do it, which makes it very challenging. You have to write very short sentences, very short paragraphs. You need to be very concise and very precise when you write for screenplay. So it's almost like writing a very simple type of Japanese poem called haiku, but with stricter format guidelines. So I find that what I like about both of them, I like the purity of screenwriting, in that you're able to tell a story very cleanly with a minimum of excess words sort of piled on top of it. I also like that screenwriting pays better if you're lucky enough to sell something. Comic book scripts don't pay very well, but they're an interesting format. They're a little different than writing for film and TV, because in film and TV you can describe continuous moments of action. Writing for comic books is all about learning to think in and describe static images that, when seen in sequence, will tell a story. Comic books are sequential art as opposed to film and TV, which are moving pictures. They're slightly different forms, and you have to think about them differently when you write them. The other thing that I like about prose, about short fiction and novels, is that you're able to go far more in depth into characters, into scenes. You have a little bit more flexibility in terms of telling the story through a very particular viewpoint. For instance, screenplays, with a few exceptions, tend to have what's known as an omniscient external viewpoint, which is you describe the action from the point of view of a camera, an uninvolved sort of mechanical witness to the action. When you're writing a novel, in most cases you're writing each scene from a point of view. You're writing it filtered through the experience and mind of a character. And sometimes from scene to scene, you will write for different characters as point of view if you're doing that kind of a book. If you're writing a book with one point of view character, you won't. But a lot of the books that I've written have involved points of view of multiple characters. And what's interesting is that you learn to think the way other people think. You learn to get a theory of mind about other types of people, about other characters. You learn to realize that two different characters experiencing the same moment will experience it differently. And as you explore those scenes, like you can often, like I've done this a few times, you will have a scene and I will repeat the scene, but then I'll write it from the other character's point of view. So you'll read it once from one guy's point of view, and then I'll reveal something new by showing you what does the scene look like from the point of view of this other person who knows something that person doesn't.
Like in the story of Rashomon.
Yes, it's very much like Rashomon. Rashomon was able to translate that technique effectively to film. However, it's been one of the staples of narrative storytelling in prose since the very beginning of the form.
What kind of critical rewards have you won for your work?
I won the Story of the Year award just this past year for my Mirror Universe novel Rise Like Lions, which is basically about a revolution that brings freedom to the Star Trek Mirror Universe. I've won a couple of fan awards, been nominated for a few others. No major awards, no Hugos, no Nebulas, but you know, not dead yet, so never know. Good talking to you, Gabriel. Thank you.
All right, this is Gabriel.net signing off.